As everyone knows, President Trump's policies have been very controversial, causing riots, protests, and lots of public backlash. With all this controversy, it makes you wonder, how do the immigration policies we have today differ from those of the past? Well, Trump's current day policies are not that different from policies we've had before. A famous quote states, "Those who do not learn history are doomed to repeat it." This shows to be true, as many of the things that make up President Trump's current day immigration policies are very similar to past ones. You would have thought he would have learned from the past, right? It doesn't appear so. His policies discriminate against whole groups of people due to fear, restrict large groups of people from immigrating into the country, and goes to excessive measures to get immigrants out and keep them out. All things that have been seen in the past. Trump's recent executive order to restrict immigration is even called Executive Order Protecting the Nation from Foreign Terrorist Entry into the United States. This title would suggest that all immigrants coming into the country are a threat to the United States. His policies have greatly impacted Muslims, Mexicans, and all others who have already started a life in the land of the free. Two of President Trump's biggest reasons for wanting to stop illegal immigration is that he's worried about the threat illegal immigrants bring with them, along with taking jobs from citizens. He shows his fear of the threat illegal immigrants bring in his tweet from 2016, where he says, "I will end illegal immigration and protect our borders. We need to make America safe and great again." Sean Spicer, the White House spokesman, said in a press interview that by putting up preventive measures and cracking down on illegal immigration, it will stem the flow of drugs, crime, and illegal immigration into the United States. The Trump administration acts as if illegal immigrants are the cause of many key problems in the United States, including crime. Another one of these key problems, which they blame immigrants for, is the unemployment rates. A main point of Trump's, which he has stressed during his presidency, is that he's going to bring back American jobs and make our economy more self-sufficient. He makes a big claim about this in his inaugural address, saying, "We will bring back our jobs, we will bring back our borders, we will bring back our wealth, and we will bring back our dreams." This appeals to those who might feel that the U.S. would be better without immigrants, and that it is immigrants' fault that there's a lack of jobs. This kind of a view was also seen in 1921 and before, around the time the Emergency Quota Act was put into place. Many people felt as if there were too many immigrants and they were the cause of a lot of problems in the United States then. This distrust of immigrants came from similar places. Shortly prior to and during the passage of the Emergency Quota Act, there was turmoil in Europe with the start of World War I. People from the countries affected by this war were displaced and many came to the United States seeking asylum. This greatly increased the volume of immigrants coming into the country. This is very similar to what is currently going on in Syria, which has also displaced many people. As the United Nations reports, 6.3 million people have been internally displaced by violence in Syria. The conflict within Syria has caused many Syrian refugees to flee, looking for a better life in many places, including the United States. Another parallel is of how, both now and then, they believe that the immigrants brought a possible threat. In the time before the Emergency Quota Act was the first Red Scare. This was when there was a large fear of immigrants because of nationwide bombings that were executed by immigrants. The bombing spread fear across the country towards immigrants, but most notably Russian immigrants and anyone coming from Eastern Europe. Similarly to the first Red Scare, a recent string of terrorist attacks across the world has created a nationwide fear of immigrants and the possibility that they are terrorists. President Trump took advantage of this fear by tweeting, "Everyone is now saying how right I was with illegal immigration and the wall. After Paris, they're all on the bandwagon." Paris is in reference to a series of attacks carried out by terrorists in Paris, which targeted multiple areas with bombings and gun violence. This is just one of many different terrorist attacks which have struck the world in the past few years. Most of these terrorists posed as immigrants into the country pretending to seek asylum. These similar circumstances caused similar mindsets of wanting to restrict immigration into the country because of fear of the threats immigrants bring to their safety and their jobs. Similarly to the past, the Trump administration is going to extreme lengths to deport Mexicans. Deportation of Mexicans is nothing new to the history of the United States. Back in the 1930s, many Mexicans were deported due mostly to the economic instability of the time. Due to a historically prevalent fear of immigrants stealing jobs and again another general disdain for Mexicans, up to 2 million Mexicans and Mexican Americans were deported or expelled from cities and towns across the U.S. and shipped to Mexico. Just like today, general racism has created a lack of empathy on whether they were U.S. citizens or not. Just like this crackdown around the 1930s and 1940s, lots of immigrants, the majority of which are Mexican, have been deported since Trump's executive order. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, said its agents arrested more than 41,000 people in the 100 days since Trump signed his executive orders on immigration, a spike of nearly 40% when compared to the same period last year. Of that 41,000 that were arrested, 11,000 did not have any criminal record. Similarly to now, excessive means were used to deport Mexicans. A newspaper article from 1932 reports that there were 1,500 Mexicans being loaded onto a train for deportation in Denver, Colorado. Using trains to deport mass amounts of people shows a desire for lots of people not wanting them there. That is a similar theme happening currently that also showed in the 1930s, where there's a desire to get rid of Mexicans in both. In his executive order, President Trump claimed that he would make the deportation of immigrants a priority. He has showed that he's willing to go to similar lengths by increasing the amount of border security, increasing the amount of ICE agents, creating detention centers for illegal immigrants, and the creation of Voice to report illegal immigration. This increase in staffing and space for detained people shows that Trump plans on deporting many more illegal immigrants. Starting these trains to deport people does not seem too out of the question at this point. The biggest connection to history of President Trump's immigration policies is his restriction of entire regions of people from immigrating into the U.S. The main point of Trump's executive order is to stop people from immigrating from 6 countries in the Middle East. Banning people from countries has happened many times before in the United States. One of the most noticeable times was with the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. In the Chinese Exclusion Act, another large group of people is restricted from immigrating into the U.S. It is exactly what it sounds like, an act excluding Chinese people from the United States. Similarly to that of President Trump's executive order to restrict immigration, the Chinese Exclusion Act was also extended from how long it was initially supposed to last. The Chinese Exclusion Act was initially intended to last 10 years, but under the Geary Act of 1892 it was extended another 10 years and then later made indefinite. This is similar to that of Trump's change of length for his restriction of immigration. Initially it was only supposed to be 120 days, but since then it has become an indefinite ban as well. This ban was a result of racism within the United States. The Chinese Exclusion Act foreshadowed a banning of all Asians. At first it was just all Chinese banned from immigrating to the United States, but that led to the National Origins Act of 1929, which banned Asian immigration entirely. President Trump's ban was also stated as only being countries from conflict-stricken areas. Deeper down, it is apparent that there is a religious undertone to it, as the countries that are banned are mostly majority Muslim. Throughout the Chinese Immigration Act and the executive order protecting the nation from foreign terrorist entry into the United States, there are many parallels. In conclusion, what President Trump is doing regarding his immigration policies is nothing new. What he's doing now is very similar to many other immigration policies throughout history, and that is sad considering we should learn from history's mistakes, so we don't make the same ones ourselves. Throughout all of these different parallels to Trump's executive orders regarding immigration, we've seen the outcome of each of them. We've seen that they don't come close to the desired outcome and ultimately are ditched and forgotten. It is important to realize now that these immigration restrictions discriminate and hurt people. As a nation, we need to stop these discriminatory views, step back, and realize that under the surface, we are all very similar.